Hello, welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Wednesday, December 27th. I am back and I am going to be breaking it down regularly once again after the Christmas break. I went back home, so it took some extra days off here. Now I'm back, ready to lock in. Now, before we get into it all, couple things I do want to bring up here. If you look right down below there, we got a couple different links, a couple different promo offers, but one I want to bring up particularly is Sleeper. We have a $500 match. It's dollar for dollar, up to $500. If you use our link for Sleeper, if you are a new customer, you get that, and for your first deposit only. And also, if you put in at least $10, you get 1 month free of Lion Star. So it is a win-win, free money, free Lion Star, and a new place to bet. If you're not familiar with these pick'em games, it is under the daily fantasy rules, not sports betting. So there's a lot of states that you are allowed to use these different pick'em games where you would not be able to sports bet. So nice little way to do it. Now let's get into this slate. We do have a 6-gamer. I think it's a pretty fun one to talk about and to play. One of the things that is interesting is all the games. Last game is at 5:30, so there's no real late sweat. It's all pretty much in, the first hour and a half. And with that, at least a lot of the news should be out prior to lock or right around lock. All right. Now let's get into the slate itself a little bit. As always, we will go position by position. And starting with the highest owned, Tyrese Maxey. So Joel Embiid is out. Maxey does get a little bit of a bump from Embiid out, but it's not as much as you would expect. But his minutes are more secure than you could ever kind of imagine in this situation. And he's pretty much a lock for, 38 plus minutes, barring just a huge blowout, which in this game doesn't look very likely. So Maxey looks good. I like him. Do not mind getting away from him. He's going to have the ball. He's going to have his chances to get it done. Next, we got Dennis Smith Jr. So the Nets have some injuries today. Claxton is out. Spencer Dinwiddie is out. And then there's another guy that was questionable. I'm blanking on it right now. Oh, yeah, Cam Johnson out. And then Dorian Finney-Smith is questionable. So a lot of kind of news to unpack there, but Dennis Smith, obvious bump up, pretty high owned, 34%. I like him. I don't love him. I do think he is going a little bit high owned, but he absolutely has a ceiling, especially when he gets playing time. Now, he has not started all season long. The expectation is that he would in this spot, but when he has started, he is a guy that at 5K can absolutely get you 6x plus. He can do a lot with the ball, so I don't mind going there. Next, DeAnthony Melton. Now, this is one that I think is very, very interesting. Without Joel Embiid, he might get the biggest bump up out of anybody in that starting unit, and not quite as much ownership. So I'm definitely intrigued by going to Melton. The only issue that I see with him is that he's 6.4K on FanDuel, and the chances of him going 8x is slim. I mean, he did it last on Christmas versus Miami, and he's gone, 40 a few times this year. So it's absolutely possible. It's just not quite as likely. I do think that price is a little bit higher than I would like, but as I said, I do think he gets the biggest bump up, and with him having lower ownership than Maxey, I am likely to have more Melton than Maxey. Some other kind of pivots that I like, Dennis Schroeder. Cannot believe that Schroeder versus Washington is going low owned, but look, the guy produces at a decent clip as far as fantasy per minute, 0.86 over his last 20 starts, but he gets the benefit of this Washington Wizards pace and anti-defense team, which it gets a giant bump up to point guard. So I'm definitely intrigued by Schroeder. I like that not many people are going there. And he's going to play, his 32, 34 minutes, something like that, in a great matchup. So I think it's an interesting one to attack. And that will do it for my liked players on FanDuel. Now, let's check point guard out on DraftKings. So we got Dennis Smith Jr., 4,700. He's too cheap on DraftKings. I understand why all the ownership is going there. I like him. Don't absolutely love him. Melton at 25% owned, I like a lot more than Dennis Smith Jr. Scotty Barnes, 8.7K. I think that is too cheap for who he is. And in this matchup, he's got a great matchup. He can, he's one of those rare players that can hit 70 fantasy points. And there's just not that many of them, especially not many at 8.7K. So I understand the ownership and do not mind going there as well. Luka's fine. I think it is a little bit of a tough spot for him, but I get why people would want to go there. And getting over to the matchup, Fred VanVleet. Let's go fantasy points per minute. I like that one a little bit more. Fred VanVleet, Tyus Jones, Damian Lillard, Luka, and Schroeder are all up there towards the top, and I think all are very interesting. One thing to note here is I believe Jordan Poole is questionable. It was DeLon Wright is out. So with DeLon Wright being out, I am a little bit more intrigued by Tyus Jones, because there's a little bit more chance he picks up an extra, 2, 3, 4 minutes, something like that. And for him, 2, 3, 4 minutes in a good matchup is pretty intriguing if it happens. So, but that is an if. It is just a possible situation that could happen, but he's definitely worth considering. I think Damian Lillard's in a great spot. The issue here is possible blowout situation with no Dinwiddie, no Claxton, kind of banged up net squad, and Doncic is fine. I just don't love it. Over to shooting guards. So our highest own on FanDuel, we got Mikal Bridges, DeAnthony Melton, OG Anunoby. Bridges, his usage goes up. I think it's a tough matchup for him. His price is okay. I get why people are going here. I just don't love it at high ownership. But I don't hate the play. I mean, there's good reasons why he's high owned. It's just not one that I'm getting to too much right now. D'Anthony Melton we covered. OG Anunoby, I think, is in a very interesting spot. Once again, it's just picking on those Wizards, They give us a bump up in a lot of different spots. He's in the 5Ks and has, mid 40s ceiling. So I don't mind going there in this spot. Huge pace up. Gonna play the minutes, gonna be out there. I think he's pretty interesting. Kelly Oubre is one of those lower owned pieces for the 76ers that I find very, very intriguing. He is obviously back in the starting lineup, played 40 minutes on Christmas Day without Joel Embiid. So if he's playing that kind of minutes at his price, it's a super intriguing spot. And I am kind of surprised that more people aren't there. Chris Middleton. Look, his price is coming up, but for good reason. He has been right around those mid-30s nonstop lately. But the thing that I want to show is 33 minutes versus NY the last 2 games. His minutes are finally getting up to more of a starter minutes. If that 32, 33 stays, he is extremely intriguing, and it's a way to get one of the highest team totals on the slate at a little bit cheaper price. Giannis and Lillard are both very expensive. you could use Middleton, hopefully get some of that scoring and some of that fantasy upside without the price. And he's been producing lately, and if he's playing 32 minutes, it's only a matter of time until he starts hitting that 40 point fantasy range again, and we know we can do it. All right, and now on to DK, shooting guard, high-owned, Melton, Middleton, Amon Thompson. Thompson is, back and playing. The issue, 12, 22 minutes, something like that. You can't really expect a lot out of him, but he is dirt cheap, and that's pretty much why he's getting ownership, just because he's going to be playing a little bit at 3,300. I think you can do better than that, so don't like that one too much. Kim Thompson's fine. Kelly Oubre we talked about. Matchup tool. We got Beasley, Anunoby, Melton, Poole, Black, Dante DiVincenzo. Issue with DiVincenzo is minutes are just kind of all over the place. If he is efficient, he can get there, but that's pretty much the only way. Anthony Black has been terrible all year. Jordan Poole has shown a little bit of a ceiling lately. I don't know if he's kind of rounding back into form, but you're also paying for it. I think 7.6K is just a bit too high for him. But this is more of the player we thought we were going to be getting on the Wizards than what he was doing earlier in the season. I do think it's a little bit interesting. I just think that price is a little bit high as well. Beasley's another way to attack this Milwaukee game total a little bit cheaper. The only thing with him is his minutes have been a little more inconsistent lately than they were earlier in the season. Maybe it's because Middleton's playing more, but and Pat Connaughton's back. They're getting a little more healthy, but only 28 minutes per game over the last 5, 31 minutes per game over the last 20. So a little scary there, but his price has also come down a little bit, and we have seen him produce throughout the season, so I don't hate going there. Just some risk to it, so it's not a bad, GPP option because of that risk. Just don't go all in on him. Small forward, high-owned, Bridges, Scotty Barnes, Tobias Harrison, Mikal Bridges we talked about, Scotty Barnes we talked about on DK. On FanDuel, his price is way higher. I'm intrigued by him. I think his price is reasonable. It's just that at this price, some of that ceiling is kind of gone. He's priced a little bit more as far as how he should be on FanDuel. So I'm not getting to him quite as much with ownership like this. But if he's in a lineup or 5 or 10, I'm not going to mind. I do like him, just not trying to go, over the top with getting as much as I possibly can. Tobias Harris, again, it's the Joel Embiid effect. He gets a bump up. He gets a couple extra minutes without Embiid and more rebounds, more scoring opportunities. Usage goes up. So I get why people are going there, and I will too. I don't mind it. Anunoby I like. Kelly Oubre I like. One of the guys we have not talked about yet that I do like is Dorian Finney-Smith. So Nets are pretty beat up. They have multiple injuries. And I think there's a lot of different ways they can go, but I think DFS may get a few extra minutes today, and he can produce. He's not in a terrible spot. The Bucks have let people score and stay into games for a while. They do end up winning them, but they're generally in the game for a while. So I think DFS is fairly interesting. The one thing, he's questionable, so pay attention to that. If he is out, Royce O'Neal probably picks up a good bit of minutes there and becomes much more interesting. And he's popping up a little bit here too, but just slightly more expensive. And another guy we have not talked about, good old Kuzma. Look, Jordan Poole is almost priced the same as Kuzma now, and I just think that's crazy. Kuzma has the higher ceiling. He's been more consistent all season, and he's also at lower ownership. So I would be going Kuzma over Jordan Poole. In my opinion, that is the better play. Terry Eason, he is questionable. Dylan Brooks is out. So that's one of the starters out. It's going to open up some more minutes. And we have seen Eason play a decent amount of minutes in some games recently. And he's a guy that can really produce on a fantasy point per minute basis once he gets rolling. So I'm definitely intrigued by him. Low ownership and not a terrible option. Just make sure he's playing because he is questionable. All right, small forward on DraftKings. We got Tobias, Scotty Barnes, Royce O'Neal. Don't mind Royce. As I said, I like him a lot more without Dorian Finney-Smith. But I think both are intriguing and both are decent options. And over to small forward matchups. We got Bridges. We got Franz Wagner and Denny Advidia. I think Denny is actually super interesting. He gets a really nice bump up. My issue is his minutes. His minutes are just all over the board. It makes it way harder to project. Now, if you think this is a game where he could get, 28, 30 minutes, then I think he looks very, very good. If he's going to be in this, 23, 20, 26 range, then he doesn't look great. He's going to need to play well, get a couple extra minutes, but he is intriguing if he does get those minutes today. Wagner, I think it's fine. I think it is kind of interesting to have an Orlando piece if you're going to use some of those 76ers chalky pieces. And if I'm going to use anybody, I think it is Franz Wagner today. Don't mind him. He's been consistent, has a solid ceiling, not too pricey. I think he also is a better matchup than Banchero today. All right, so power forward, high owned. We got Scotty Barnes. We got Tobias Harris. We got Julius Randle. We haven't touched on Julius yet, but Julius I do think has the better matchup for the Knicks in this spot between him and Brunson. So I'm a little more on Randle than I am on Brunson. I do think Brunson's a little interesting, and he's going to get some ownership because he's been playing well lately. But Randle is the one that I am looking at a little bit more. Once again, 8.5K and a guy that can get you, mid 50s or 60, but is regularly in that mid 40s is extremely interesting to me, and I do not mind getting there. DFS, Kuzma, we talked about. A punt play that I think is a little bit interesting. Wizards got just absolutely torched from bench players, and Precious Achiuwa is one that can do some torching, as we've seen in the past, and every now and then he will close with the team, and if that happens, that's when you're able to see kind of some real upside from him. So I think he is a little bit interesting. My issue, he's 5K and has yet to hit 30, has hit 30 once so far this season. So while I do like him, little apprehensive, some more chalk more value likely opens up that brings me off of him. But right now I am a little bit intrigued by Achiuwa in this spot versus the Wizards. And power forward on DK, Tobias, Watford, and Royce O'Neal. Trendon Watford is an interesting one. Really don't know what his minutes are going to be without Claxton there. I don't expect much. If he gets more minutes, though, he is intriguing. He is a guy that is right around a minute, fantasy point per minute player. And if he's getting, 18, 20 minutes at 3,400, he becomes very intriguing. It's just, will he? Nobody really knows at this point. And we have him at 11. I would likely have him in that 11 to 16, 18 range. So pretty hard to really go all in on him. but he is an intriguing piece to at least think about later when news comes out as far as who's going to start, who's going to play. Power forward, Jalen Williams, best matchup, Dean Wade, Pascal Siakam, and Tobias Harris. Siakam, I don't mind. Barnes is getting more ownership. Pascal's a nice little pivot off that, and in a decent matchup too. It's just not, he just doesn't have the ceiling that Barnes does, but he's cheaper and definitely can put up some fantasy points. Really like the matchup for Jalen Williams. I just think his price is a little high, but he's intriguing. DFS we talked about liking as well, and center spot. So highest owned chalk of the slate is definitely Day'Ron Sharpe. Guy has been producing lately. 240-point games in the last 3, several 30s over the last range. I would say he is expected to be the starter right now. The thing is, he's not playing many minutes. He is producing in bunches when he gets the minutes. There's been other chances this year also for him to start, and he hasn't. So there is a chance that he doesn't start today. So understand that. But even if he does start, there's a chance he only plays 24, 26 minutes, something like that. Now, at 22 minutes, he's going to still look interesting. There's a reason why so many people are going there. I don't hate it. Just understand a lot is going to change throughout the day with his ownership and whatnot, depending on if he's starting, if he's not, and take all of that into account and use the usage matrix a little bit to figure out how you want to attack the slate once we get some more info on him. Daniel Gafford, 13% owned, a third of the ownership. I think he's super interesting. He's had some giant games lately and getting minutes in a very interesting game environment. If Toronto or if Washington is able to keep in this game, it's likely because Gafford or Kuzma are kind of really getting it done. So I don't mind going to Gafford. Paul Reed, once again, there is no Embiid. The issue with Reed is he's only gotten the start twice with Embiid out. Last game he had 4 fouls in 17 minutes. Didn't really do too much. I do think he is just a little bit better coming off the bench than he is starting. But we're really not sure what the 76ers are going to do in this matchup. He might start regardless. I don't expect a ton of minutes from him. I think he looks fine. He does have the ability to go nuts. So if his ownership is really low, he's a little more intriguing. But, he's definitely a pivot option from Sharpe at similar prices with similar upside to Sharpe. So there are some ways to go there. Another guy I wanted to bring up was Derek Lively. Lively is a guy that's been pretty good. I don't love this matchup for him, but 30 minutes, right around fantasy point per minute in a decent game environment with Dallas down guys. I think there's pretty, very high likelihood of 5x and absolutely the chance of 6. The issue here is that for him to get there, you're going to need, say, Sharpe and Reed to be terrible. So that is my issue with them. Now let's go to center on FanDuel, on DraftKings. Sharpe, Watford, Randall. Went over that Sharpe situation. Watford's minutes are up in the air. Not really too sure what to expect there. And matchup tool, Jacob Podol in a very good matchup. Gafford's in a good matchup. Brooke Lopez, Sengun, Wendell Carter Jr. I just don't think Carter Jr.'s minutes will be there. Sengun, always in consideration. And I like Gafford. Podol's okay for me today. So that'll do it for us today. Quick run through of the 6 games. Good luck. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Have a good one, guys. Bye.